take a look at one of the best dive watch releases of 2022. This is a Citizen. It's the Promaster Dive Automatic in Super Titanium. I'm really excited about the bracelet and clasp on this watch and also the movement that they're using. I really do think this is a Seiko killer. There isn't a Seiko out there right now that can compete with this watch at this price. Let's flip the camera and take a look at the new Citizen Promaster Dive Automatic in Super Titanium. All right, so here it is. This is the Citizen Promaster Dive Automatic in Super Titanium, a watch that I have been talking about for quite some time on my channel since it was first announced earlier this year. And I am very excited about this watch. I actually said in the intro that I thought that this was a Seiko killer. I absolutely believe that. I don't think there is a Seiko that could really compete with this watch at this price point. Not even the packaging can compete with this watch. It comes in a canister. It looks like a dive tank. What you get from Seiko at this price point just can't compete. It's just a cardboard box. This is a lot nicer. You slide this open, and of course you have a watch inside. As I mentioned, this is made out of Super Titanium. Super Titanium is titanium that has an extra hard coating, so basically a DLC coating on the outside of the case, the bracelet, the bezel, and I believe even the case back and the buckle. So this gets a hard coating over everything. It gets a sapphire crystal, and that sapphire crystal is beveled, and it also gets a buckle that is not only milled, but has a built-in diver's extension, which is just hands down nicer than anything that you will get from Seiko, period. And it's ratcheting. You could actually use this as micro adjust also. So we'll come back to that in just a few minutes. Now, this is not something new. You've seen this on other watches. I believe you've even seen this on other Citizens, but it adds something to this watch that Seiko just don't currently offer at this price point. And that is something that is very important to a lot of people, including myself. So let's get into the specs and the details on this watch. It has a blue dial. That blue dial is not really a sunburst dial or a sunray dial. It's more of a metallic blue dial. You have applied indices. Those are filled with Lume and very liberally applied with Lume. Again, competing with Seiko here, Lume Bright, very, very good. I think this is just as good. We will do a Lume shot towards the end of the video. You have a seconds hand with a little lollipop that is lumed, and then you have sort of a fence post hand for the minutes hand, and then for the hour hand it is a Mercedes style hand, and you can see that is slightly skeletonized. Those are all lumed. On the dial itself, Citizen at the 12 o'clock, right below that it says automatic, then Divers 200 because this is a 200 meter dive watch. You also have the Promaster logo right above that, and then at the bottom of that little sentence right there at the bottom of the dial right above the 6 o'clock it says titanium, because this is obviously a titanium watch. Now the bezel insert is blue on this watch and it has silver lettering. Let's listen to the bezel action. So the bezel action on here, so this is a titanium watch, isn't that incredible, but it's not bad. It's not very audible. It feels pretty good. It's just not incredibly audible, but it does line up perfectly. So the little pip here, the triangle on the bezel itself lines up with the minute track, and that lines up with the index at 12 o'clock. Everything lines up perfectly, which is great. This is in titanium and the bezel is actually polished. So it's the only polished element on the watch except for some elements on the crown, and then there's a little area right here that is polished. But besides that, I think everything else is actually, I'm sorry, each little edge on the bracelet is for the center link polished. So that's the only polished edges. Everything else is either bead blasted. Most of the case looks like it's a bead blast, and then you have a little bit of brushing on the sides of the bracelet. You have some brushing on the actual clasp itself. But besides that, it's mostly a matte finish. Either it's brushed or a bead blasting. That's what you're getting throughout the entire watch. Now the case itself, obviously in titanium, the case back, a solid case back in titanium. This is an automatic watch. It is powered by a 9000 series Miyota movement. And I believe they're calling it the 9051. Essentially, it's a 9015. It's essentially the same exact movement. That means it is slim And I always say this, I prefer this over a Seiko NH movement, even the 6R, because the 6R is really just a pumped up 4R movement. I really love Miyota 9000 series, and they're doing some really cool things with it. This does have a small crown. We'll get back to that in just a second when we do measurements. The bracelet is sort of an oyster style bracelet, I guess you would call it. I guess you would call it an oyster style bracelet. You do have push pins in the bracelet. It looks like they're throughout though. So every single link has a push pin. I'll do a close-up so you can see what I'm talking about. And then we have the buckle. I want to talk about the buckle a little bit because I really think this is a great selling point for this watch. It is milled. Now, I believe this part is probably pressed, but that's not the part that normally bothers me with Seiko. It's the scissor portion. So this scissor portion is actually milled, and then you also have this area, which is probably, again, pressed, but you have two sets of buttons. One is for deployant, so you do have a double deployant, but you also have a flip lock, and that is signed Citizen. Once you open that up, you also have two more buttons here. These are sort of beveled, I guess you would call it, and then you could press both of those and extend the diver's extension. Now that's just a sheet of titanium. Press it again, and actually I don't think you need to even press it. You could just pull it back in and it will go by itself. Yep. You could actually use this as a micro adjust, so you could see that, and it's not sharp anywhere on here. It's actually really nicely finished. And I am very impressed with this buckle. Now, I've seen this from other brands like Mito and Citizen, I think, do it as well. But I'm really happy that they did something like this because it's way more versatile than a traditional just, you know, sort of flip closure buckle. I really like it. And the bracelet is really nice as well. Like I said, there is polishing on the insides of each one of the center links. Really not a lot of flash to this watch. Which is actually a good thing in my opinion. Then you have that, you know, a little bit of polishing around the bezel, which adds to it. The crown is a little bit on the small side. You do have the Promaster logo. It is nicely engraved and it is slightly polished. And then the case back obviously is screwed in, and you have 200 meters of water resistance. You also have a screwed in crown, and you also have milled end links on here. So lots of really good details on this watch. So very quickly, let's do measurements. Then I will throw it on my wrist. We will talk about price very quickly and then wrap up the video with a Lume shot. So at the bezel itself, it is 40.9. At the case, I believe it is basically the same because they are in line with each other. So 40.9 is what I'm getting, 40.6. Somehow I'm getting it a little bit smaller, but that's what it is. It's 40.9. That's what I've measured it a few times, so 40.8. The lug to lug on here, I wish they did drill the lugs on this watch. That would have been good. Just a little added touch, but 48.6. You do get male end links, so it is a 53.3 millimeter lug to lug. So that is pretty big. And then a small crown at 5.3 millimeters. So like I said, I wish that was bigger. It is a titanium crown, 12.2 millimeters thick. So obviously very nice, not a very thick watch, 200 meters of water resistance. It is ISO certified. Just a really nice watch. The sapphire crystal on here is probably one of my favorite elements besides obviously the blue dial. I really like that, but there is sort of a bevel that goes all the way around the dial itself. In between the bezel and the crystal, there is a large space. It looks great. It really does look great. So very quickly, let me show you what I have on my wrist. Then we'll throw this on my wrist. It's not sized for my wrist, but I will be sizing this because I want to wear this for a few days, and I will be doing comparisons to other watches in my collection, maybe a Seiko. We'll talk about that later, but today I have another Citizen on. This is a solar powered Citizen. This is the Orca. It's a really professional dive watch with a big chunky bezel on here. I love this watch. It's really cool looking. Meant to look like an Orca, you know, which makes sense. This has to go back very soon, and I will be sad to see it go. But here is the Citizen on my 7.5 inch wrist. Now, this is a watch that I will be purchasing. I don't know if I want the blue dial variant. I think I do, and I think I want this exact watch. I mean, not this exact watch because this is a press sample, but this exact model is the one I want with the blue dial and the blue bezel. I kind of gravitate toward blue too much. I don't know, but So there you go, on my 7.5-inch wrist. I think it looks really good. It fits really well on my wrist. All in all, a very good looking watch. Now the lug to lug might be a little bit big for some people's wrists. For mine it does work. However, if you have a smaller wrist, you may want to get this on the rubber strap rather than the bracelet because of those male end links. That's really it. But other than that, if you have, you know, a wrist around my size, maybe a little bit smaller, maybe like a 6.5-inch wrist and up, I definitely would get the bracelet because the bracelet is beautiful. It really is. Now, they do charge you, I think, $200 more for the bracelet. So this is $795 on the rubber strap and $995 on the titanium bracelet with an extra hard coating. So I think both of those are excellent prices for what you are getting, especially considering it's coming from Citizen, a major brand, and they are giving you a lot for your money with this watch. And it definitely, in my opinion, outcompetes most Seikos at that price point, especially that $795 price point. That's pretty insane. But considering that what you're getting here with the bracelet, with the buckle, and the movement, there's really not a Seiko that can compete right now. Anyway, very quickly, let's do a Lume shot because the Lume is actually very good on this watch. I've already checked it out. I couldn't wait. I had to see, but it is very good. So let's shut off the lights and do a quick Lume shot. Well, there you go. I mean, it's really good. And it also looks cool because of that beveled sapphire crystal, which gives it a little bit of reflection on the edge of the actual crystal itself. And you can see it looks like as I move it around, it sort of disappears. There's like these little dots that are on the outside of the indices themselves. Those aren't really dots of Lume. It's just a reflection, which looks awesome. And then of course you have that pip, which is also lumed at the 12 o'clock on the bezel to give you orientation. Everything else is lumed. The hands are lumed, obviously the Mercedes hand, and then the minutes and that little lollipop on the second hand. Lume hangs on really well. I think they did a great job with this watch. I would love to compare this directly to one of my Seikos, probably the SBDC061, even though that's not in titanium and it's more expensive than this watch. I would like to compare it. I guess you could see where that's going. But anyway, tell me what you guys think down in the comments below. Again, a watch that I am very excited about, a watch that I plan on purchasing. So obviously I really like it, and I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to buy this watch, so I will have it in my collection shortly. And there you go. Tell me what you guys think down in the comments below. I want to hear from you guys. What do you think of this watch? What do you think of what Citizen is doing? Am I right? Is this a Seiko killer? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear from you guys. Please also don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that bell icon. It's super helpful for the channel. I very much appreciate it. Please follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is WatchChrisBlog, all one word. I have some links in the description. Those links are to Amazon. If you click those links and buy anything, it helps support the channel. It doesn't cost you anything extra. However, I very much appreciate it. Anyway, thank you for logging on. I'll catch you guys in the next video.